Oh, Pam, my good old buddy, my good old friend. I have you back at least every couple weeks now because I'm just finding excuses.
That works for me. I'm always up for drinking and chatting and learning fun facts.
Yes, and giving the giver of fun facts as well. I mean, I love it. It's great. Welcome back, Pam. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Wanted to do, because you had said you never done white Burgundy before. So I was like, okay, fun. So this is your first time. Today we're doing Chablis, which is part of white Burgundy. And initial thoughts and reactions before we get started.
It's good. It smells really good.
Yeah.
I love the nose on it. It's definitely got more of a, it's a stronger flavor. I drink a lot of Rieslings and things, so it's definitely a stronger flavor, especially sort of the after taste. After a couple seconds, it's there's a bit of a punch to it.
Yeah. That's what I really love about Chablis. It's quite punchy. It can be very sharp. And kind of high acid, which I love high acid whites as well. But so do you know anything at all about Chablis or white Burgundy in general?
No, I know the Lady Chablis, but I don't think that's has anything to do with this.
Who's the Lady Chablis?
She was a transgender performer, and she was featured in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which we just read on the Polymedia Book Club a few months back.
Fun! See, I'm not part of the book club because I don't read and I don't like to be smart. You guys are way cooler than I am, so. Very cool. Well, Lady Chablis, this is to you. Cheers. But let's get started with some fun facts. So,
all right.
I'll get into more about the wine as we go, but escargot is our first fun fact. Give me a fun fact about some snails.
Okay, so all these fun facts, don't ask me to cite my sources, but snails have been eaten as food since at least Roman times. Apicius, that sounds right, the author of the oldest surviving cookbook from the 1st century BC, has a recipe for snails in his cookbook.
Ooh. I wonder how it's prepared. I hoped not just dig out of ground, boil, and consume.
Rubbery.
Yummy. Have you ever had snails?
I have. Yeah, I think I've had them not too many times, but at sort of fancier restaurants. And I think when I was in Paris, I had some. But they're pretty good. I think it's hard to not be delicious when you're smothered in butter and herbs. So...
Yeah. I feel like it was just a vessel for the herbs and butter, honestly. And I was like, this is just swimming in it. Literally, you just, there's a little tiny bit of snail and just, poof, butter.
Yeah. All right. So, the second one is the one where it's...
iffy.
So... It seems like you'd think of France when you think of snail consumption, but according to this website I found, the countries that eat the most snails are actually Spain, and then Morocco, and then France.
Really? I'm very surprised at that because I really thought for sure France would be number one for that one. Huh.
That's what I thought as well. So I'm not sure how correct this is, what year this information is from, but maybe the Spanish like their snails more than the French. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I wanted you to find a fun fact about escargot. Because actually escargot, because it is more of a French treat and specifically a Burgundian treat. When I was in Burgundy, we went to a Burgundian restaurant, of course, as you do. And you had to have escargot because that's what all the locals have and that's what everybody eats. So that's what you just did. And swimming in butter and herbs, and it was delicious and didn't taste rubbery at all. But it's very specific to that region. Which I was like, okay, that makes sense. We can talk about where this comes from and we talk about what foods are grown there. So escargot. So I'm surprised if Spain is leading the way in this snail massacre because I thought it was like, oh, it's Burgundian, right? No.
Yeah. I also found that the two most common snails are the Burgundy snail and then the Petite Gris snail. So
there you go, because there are Burgundian snails here. But yes, so Chablis is part of Burgundy, where our happy little wine comes from. Burgundy is a region in France, southeast of Paris. Chablis is much closer. Like, so Burgundy is like here. Chablis is actually closer to Champagne, but it's technically part of Burgundy. And I'll throw up a map here for YouTube's sake to show where it's at. But for this purposes, so Chablis is a happy little region. And within Chablis, there are pretty much 4 little subsets that you can get. So you have basic, well, there's Chablis. There's Petit Chablis, which is the lowest level. So anything it has to be within a certain particular area, it's called Petit Chablis. And it doesn't mean like baby Chablis. It's just like that's the area. That's what it's called. It's still made out of 100% Chardonnay. If it says Chablis on the label, it's always Chardonnay. 100%. Can't be anything else. So then after that, we have Petit Chablis. And then we have Chablis, which is the wine that we have today, which I didn't even mention. We're drinking Joseph Drouhin Chablis 2020. Yay. Above that is Premier Cru. So it'll say Premier Cru Chablis. And then above that is Grand Cru. So the highest possible one. And Grand Cru is the smallest percentage of what is available in Chablis. It makes about 2% of the total vineyards that are grown in Chablis. So very small. And they're specific plots. They're all clumped together in this happy little, like, right off the hill facing southwest. And the 4 vineyards that you can get from them are Burgos, Les Précieux, Val de Cire, Grenios. I mispronounced that one. I'll just put it up there. Valmeur, Leclos, and Blanchot. So if that says it, then it's Grand Cru. And those price, not for Grand Cru, you think like, oh, this is going to be like stupid expensive, right? No, it's usually about $100-$150. Whereas our happy little wine was about 30-ish. So there's not a huge gap in terms of the highest amount to where we're at. So it's not like obscenely unattainable. So yeah.
Interesting. And those terms like the Grand Cru, Premier Cru, those are used all through wines in France, right? Because I remember them from the Champagne episode.
Yes, well, yes and no.
Okay.
So yes, in Champagne they do use Grand Cru. I don't think they use Premier Cru in Champagne. They use it in Burgundy, so they use Grand Cru, Premier Cru. And sometimes in parts of Burgundy, they put like a 1 ER, which means Premier Cru, like literally the number 1 and then ER. I don't know how that means Premier, but yeah, that means Premier Cru. And then you have the village level, which would be like Chablis, Meursault, Corton, blah, blah, whatever. And below that, there's nothing else. Well, there's like Bourgogne below that. So more general kind of things. Outside of Burgundy and Champagne using Grand Cru, that's it. Those are the only ones, I think. Yeah, Loire doesn't use Grand Cru. Bordeaux doesn't. Rhone, Alsace does not. Alsace, I think Alsace might. Maybe. Yeah, to check me on that. Brain mushy. I don't drink very much Alsatian wine, so. But yeah, that's pretty much the big one. Champagne and Burgundy for using those terms. So yay. Leveling things. But yeah, let's talk about oysters now, though. So this is a food-centric fun fact.
So we're getting a little sexual with the oysters.
Ooh, I love it.
So almost all oysters start their lives as male, but as they grow larger, many of them will switch to female because, one oyster can make a lot of sperm and only so many eggs. So this ensures that the oyster population continues growing. And fun fact, if you're swimming anywhere with oysters, an oyster reef can house around 100 to 500 oysters per 10 square feet. An acre of healthy oyster reef can house 600,000 of them, and they're constantly just spraying sperm and eggs into the water, just breeding all over the place. So if you're anywhere where there's oysters, you're just
swimming in sperm.
Swimming in sperm. Yep.
That sounds so gross.
I know.
Like, I'm sure you can't, like, see it or whatever, or even know what's going on in the
There's no
ocean.
perception at all, but...
No, but the idea that, this is where, this is, there'd be sex all around you going on right now. Oh my God. Makes you think twice about swimming with oysters.
I know. Yeah. I've heard about people just like swimming down, grabbing an oyster,
eating it. Yum. You're just already eating oysters if you happen to open your mouth as you're going down there to get it.
Exactly.
Ew. Oh, Lord. Give me another fun fact. I hope it's sexual, too.
So this one is not as sexual. Oysters filter water through their gills and consume food like plankton in the process. They can maintain the balance in marine ecosystems by reducing excess algae and sediment that can lead to hypoxia or low oxygen levels and cause other marine life to die. The oyster population of Chesapeake Bay used to filter the entire water volume of the bay in just 3 days.
Oh, wow. So they be cleaning and keeping the water healthy. Good for them. So not only are they just contaminating it with their disgusting sperm all over the place, we're like, no, we'll clean this up. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll clean the pollution and the waste from other things, but then we'll populate it with our own.
Yes. I mean, at least they're willing to clean the gross. Like, we'll just make our own mess and not.
Yep.
Do you like oysters?
I like some oysters. Like, I like little oysters. The best ones I've ever had were called cushy oysters, and they're like little ones from the West Coast, like off BC. And I really like them. If they start getting too big where I have to like really chew them, not as much. But if you've got a nice like mignonette on them with like garlic or chilies and some nice sort of acid, and they can be nice, but just small oysters. Yeah,
I tend to agree too. When they get too big, I'm just like, do I have to eat this in one fell swoop? I'm like, Jesus, like I don't know if I can. Yeah. And I don't understand people who eat like a lot of oysters. Like, I'm good with like 6 or 12. Like 12 is a lot. I'm like, that's the max for me. Like we're good after that.
Yeah, I'm even less than that. Like a couple oysters is good for me. It's sort of like a little appetizer, not a, I don't want to eat a meal of them.
No. And yet, people say like, oh, they're an aphrodisiac. They're supposed to make for sexy times. And I'm like, well, first off, they're the ones having the sex, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's why it just rubs off on you.
Exactly. They have so much sex. They're like, let's give away the sex. But I guess you have to eat a huge amount in order to actually feel the aphrodisiacness or whatever the chemical that is in the oysters. I'm like, no, I don't want to eat that many. Burger Champ's gonna kill me because he's like, you eat like 1 billion oysters. I'm like, dude. Sure thing. But yeah, so I wanted to tell you about oysters. So oysters actually do have a play into the making of this wine. Now, they're not like throwing in oysters into the barrels or anything like that. It's kind of gross. But so the soil in the Chablis region, pretty much where Chablis is right on the Paris Basin. It's right on the edge of the Paris Basin. And the opposite side of the basin in England is the Dorset village of Kimmeridge is where the soil's name is derived from. So the soil is called Kimmeridgian soil. And within this basin, like during the Jurassic Age, Upper Jurassic Age, like 180 million years ago, whatever it is,
Oh, wow.
Long ass time ago, it was actually the ocean. And so even today, if you dig a hole into the ground in Chablis, you can see shells of oysters in the ground. So there's literal shells in the ground in this area, which give off its sort of like, I want to say like shell-like or very sea salty, high acid kind of flavor notes to it because of this particular type of soil and the way it sits. All that, all these things that happened a billion years ago. So isn't that fun?
That is fun. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool too. Like you literally see the old fossils into the ground. It's like, wow, that's awesome.
That's awesome. That sounds like a cool place to plant wine. Oh, it's funny what you said about not throwing oysters in. When the first time I ever went on a tour of a winery and they were talking about, the process and things. And I asked, like, when a wine has, hints of blackberries or nectarines, like, do you literally like throw a handful of that in there to make it taste like that? And they're like, oh, no, it's just grapes. But that's just the notes that people can taste. It's like, I don't know.
No, yeah. I mean, it makes sense if you think about it. Like, why wouldn't they be doing that in order? But yeah, a lot of the flavor notes are derived from what's in the soils or what kind of, if it's clay or if it's got Kimmeridgian like this bad boy does, or what kind of barrels they use. So like blackberry and stuff like that, maybe like the type of grape it is, how thick-skinned. Like if it's a Merlot, it tends to have more blackberry fruit notes to it, even though there is no blackberry, unless it's blackberry wine, which... Ew, that's just but yeah, I feel like I get that question a lot, and it's totally fine. Like that's what I would think too. Like, are we just throwing shit in here? Like you would think, but no, it just shit happens, man. Chemistry's cool. Yeah,
it is cool because it would make sense. Like, okay, throw in a few nectarines or some raspberries, but then you get to like, okay, leather. Maybe don't put that in with the wine.
Yeah. Horsehair, cat piss is it's his actual descriptor. I'm like, yeah, let's throw some cat piss in there.
I can't believe that ever being used in anything but a don't drink this kind of review.
Yeah. It's actually, I think I said this before at some point in a podcast, but it's used to describe New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc.
My internet frozen.
Uh-oh, did we freeze? We might have froze.
Someone's frozen.
It's fine. We'll always just cut this out. I love this face that Pam has right now, though. So we're keeping this and we're rolling with it. What were we talking about?
So it's cat piss. Me saying why you would describe it as that in anything but a don't drink this way.
No, seriously. Yeah, like I don't want to drink cat piss, but it's an actual descriptor for like New Zealand wine. It's like, why? No.
Yeah.
No. Horsehair too. I'm like, why? Why would I want to drink that? Why would we want to describe it in such a way? No.
That's weird. Like,
no.
Ugh. Sometimes I've had multivitamins and it's like I have the multivitamin and it leaves this aftertaste like, this tastes like a barn. And it's like, I don't want that in my wine.
No, I want my wine to taste like fresh and bright and fruity and maybe a little bit of oak, but nothing super oaky because that makes me sleepy. And I want it bright. Yeah, come on. Oh, let's go more fun facts. Give me a fun fact about frost.
Okay, so I learned that there's many types of frost.
Ooh, it's like frozen, huh?
Hoarfrost and I forget the rest of them. I just remembered hoarfrost. But black frost, also called killing frost, is not, strictly speaking, frost at all because it is a condition seen in crops when the humidity is too low for frost to form, but the temperature falls so low that plant tissues freeze and die, becoming blackened, hence the term black frost. It's called the killing frost because white frost tends to be less cold, partly because of the heat of freezing the water reduces the temperature drop.
See, that makes sense because, so I wanted you to find about frost because the area of Chablis is like really, really prone to frost. And Like, so the area itself is like, Romans introduced vineyards into the region, like, you know, a billion years ago, whenever the Romans were hanging around. But it was actually in the near Abbey of Pontigny who established the viticultural area and maybe even introduced Chardonnay to the region. Sort of like fast forwarding, I guess, because of the closeness that Chablis is to Paris. Chablis had a lot of like a lot of shipments into Paris and was able to like really get their foot in the door in terms of the market share, in terms of Paris consumption, because Paris is where it was all happening in terms of wine consumption, because of the two rivers, the Yonne and the Seine. Seine that flow directly from Chablis to Paris. So, but one thing that sort of like held a lot of things back for them was, one, in the late 1800s, Chablis got completely decimated by first powdery mildew and then our happy little fen phylloxera. So no wines were, or all the wine was like kaput, goodbye. They also opened up the Paris-Lyon-Marseille Railway, which opened up Paris to many other regions outside of Chablis. So once phylloxera fixed its happy self, then Chablis vineyard owners were like more reluctant to plant a lot because they didn't have the market share, you know, they didn't have that, oh, we're so close, we can just ship it up the river, because the railways were able to ship cheaper wine from other parts of France. So one thing that sort of helped Chablis come back into popularity and grow more vineyards was their like new technology ways of fighting frost, which was the biggest prohibitor of this area. So one big one was like, you just take like these big ass pots that I guess are really complicated and put them in the vineyard, and they warm up the vines like fire pots, kind of like. The other way, tying back to what you were saying, is the black frost versus like white frost. They would like spray water, so they would get humidity into the air, so to sort of create like this igloo effect with the vines. So it would sort of freeze them, but in a way that they wanted to, I guess, probably to get rid of black frost and just sort of make an igloo and fight frost that way. Hi, Lily.
Well, she can have her water now.
Lily just wants to drink too. It's fine.
I'm thirsty. Thirsty girl. It's okay. That's interesting. So there's, I guess, low humidity in the Chablis region. I didn't know that fun fact would be so relevant.
Yeah, that's kind of cool because, like, yeah, the area itself, like, did not. I mean, it's like within the past like 60 years that Chablis just started to become more prominent. Not even prominent even for back in the day, just, you know, coming back into sort of fashion and such. Because even though it really is in the shadow of Burgundy with its other regions, because other big white Burgundies like Berceau and Corton Charmelais, however you pronounce it, like big whites that are just always going to be the fancy, oh my god, I'm drinking Merceau, but Chablis, you know, you can still, I feel like you can still find great wines from Chablis at a lot cheaper price than you can from Merceau, so But yes, what was your other fun fact about frost?
So I was really looking for video game fun facts that had to do with any of these things, and I was having such a hard time coming up with them. I was like, video game oysters? Like, no, can't really find anything. And then most of the video game stuff about frost I could find was about frost giants in either D&D or the new God of War, which neither of which I really know anything about. So instead, I found a Russian fairy tale about Father Frost. So I'm just going to read the fairy tale.
Oh, yay. Story time.
Once there was a woman who had both a daughter of her own, whom she loved, and a stepdaughter whom she hated. One day, the woman ordered her husband to take the stepdaughter out into the winter fields and leave her there to die. And the father, who I assume is the actual father of this stepdaughter, was like, okay, whatever. Father Frost finds her there, and she is polite and kind to him, so he gives her a chest full of beautiful things and fine garments. After a while, her stepmother sends her father to bring back the girl's body to be buried, and he also obeys. After a while, the family dog says that the girl is coming back and that she is beautiful and happy. And the woman was enraged, and she sent her own daughter into the fields, but her daughter was rude to Father Frost, and he froze her to death. And that's the story. Don't be rude to Father Frost.
Don't be rude. That's the story. Evil stepmother. God, what a bitch. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good story. It's a nice. Don't be rude. I love it.
Don't be rude. Mm-hmm.
Don't be rude.
If you're nice, you'll get fine garments and beautiful things and a talking dog. But if if you're rude, you freeze to death.
Sounds about right. If only that was true in real life, man. Life would be so much easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, let us taste officially now our happy little wine. We'll talk about the age and I guess sort of how. So you would think that because we have been drinking this, let's be real, Michelle's had a day. That this wine has no oak. Right, you would think that this it doesn't feel oaky, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't feel oaky, no.
Yeah, so with whites, especially from the area Chablis, now this is going to be a variation between producer to producer because there are some producers that still use a lot more barrel. But it's always the size of the barrel and the age of the barrel that are going to make the difference in terms of how much oakiness is into this wine. So this wine goes through 12 months in oak. 12 whole freaking months. But it's always no new oak. So oak is not new. And they're always in big old fatties. So the larger the oak, the more surface area. So less oakiness into the wine, and using older oak means not as much oak is imparted into the wine. So some places will have oaks, big old, I forget what they're called. They're big ass oak barrels for they're 30 years old or something ridiculous like that they're still using and such. So 12-month oak, which when you say that, if it was a California wine, this thing would be like a butter oaky fucking bob. But it's not. It's the color is nice and light. It's got a little bit of tinge of yellow to it. I mean, I think my lighting's a little bit different than yours, but it's fine.
Yeah. It's a little hay colored kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, nice hay, little golden hay color. The nose on it is very bright, seashell-y a little bit. I get kind of a tart nectarine or something like that, like a stone fruit kind of.
Yeah, I'm getting a stone fruit. Something with a little bit of sweetness to it, but not super citrusy, but not also super sweet, just like an
apricot?
Yeah.
I feel like I have apricot in mine a lot. But yeah, even on the nose, I don't feel any oakiness whatsoever. So no malolactic fermentation so all reds go through malolactic fermentation, just means that they go through this process where it creates the richness and butteriness. That's the process that creates the butter and richness in whites, but all reds go through it. So this does not, no mallow. They can stop that and just be like, psh, forget you. Which some California whites go through mallow, which is why you have the butteriness in them. And then let's taste. Ooh! Acid!
Yeah, I definitely get the acid. It's a little punchy. I also get there's a lot of minerals in the soil. It's got that.
It almost feels like a wet stone. You know what I mean? And I love that about these kind of whites. Usually Chablis across the board will have that like very high toned, high acid feel to it. Again,
Mm-hmm.
there are some outliers like Davouset, which is a producer, old style producer, will have more richness into their wine. Their wines are also way more expensive, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's also definitely sort of mellowed out as I drank it. Like the first few sips, like they were really punchy. And now, I mean, there's still some of that, but it's definitely mellowed out, and I'm getting much more the minerality and the acid.
Also with that too, like, do you have like the bottle sitting next to you?
Mm-hmm.
And was it in the fridge before?
Yep.
So it probably warmed up a little bit. So like a lot of times with whites, people want them like with really bad beer, you want it ice cold, right? In order to just drink it. With whites, you want it chilled, but you don't want it like I only know this number in Celsius, like to be surprised. I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, but they suggest drinking it at like 10 degrees Celsius, which is pretty warm. Like that's not super, super cold. Like it has some chill to it, but it doesn't feel like, you know, and that's the way to sort of have it open up so it breathes a little bit, because the cold will mute things and make it feel more sharp. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know that what we currently drink wine at temperature-wise is not right. Like when they talk about red wine at room temperature and white wine refrigerated, like that comes from long ago when room temperature and refrigeration temperature were much different. So what I've heard is that currently we drink red wine actually warmer than it should be, and we drink white wine colder than it should be.
Yeah, that's 1,000% true. Absolutely. Like I had like a little bit, my reds a little bit colder than what you get like warm. Like I don't want it warm. I want a little, especially like light white. Oh my God. Light reds from like Burgundy. I want a little chill in it. Yeah, absolutely. Don't be scared.
Like room temperature for me right now is like 22 degrees. Like that's not what it meant. It meant 16 degrees. Like
And that's not far off from like the suggested for this white, you know, like it's not that much colder. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not Canadian. I think in the stupid American terms of Fahrenheit. Yes, how do we measure things as Canadians? Because as an American, I have no mother tongue. I don't even know how to measure things as an American, to be perfectly honest.
So to measure things as a Canadian, it's very complicated to do this. Okay, so if you're measuring speed, you use metric. So you use kilometers an hour to measure speed. If you're measuring distance, if you're measuring your height, you use imperial. You use feet and inches. If it's a long distance, you use metric, you use kilometers. For temperature, are you cooking? Use Fahrenheit. Or is it the weather? Use Celsius.
What?
For mass, for mass, if it's your weight, you use pounds. If it's for most other things, you use kilograms. And as for volume, if it's for cooking, you use cups and spoons, but if it's not for cooking, you use metric. So it's very complicated, and that's why we're somewhat fluent in both things.
That makes it easier, I guess, because now you can just go to any country and be like, yeah, I know what you're talking about, bitches. It's fine.
I mean, really, America's the only one that uses
because we're stupid.
Not metric.
Let's be real. We're stupid. Here's the only place where we talk about in miles and whatever else we use that's different. I don't freaking know. Teaspoons? I don't know. No idea. But
yeah.
At least that makes you well versed in everything now. It didn't like in England, don't they use your weight by like stone? Like I'm
stone, yeah.
Stone. Like what is that?
I think a stone is 20 pounds, but they wouldn't think in pounds either. So I don't even know. Because the problem is I don't know. Like if you ask me how much I weigh, I can tell you in pounds. I can't tell you in kilograms. If you ask me how tall I am, I can't tell you in meters. But everything else we use metric, which makes more sense. Just like multiples of 10, fantastic, so easy.
Yeah.
Why don't we use it? But I don't know.
I don't know. I'm too dumb to think about things in more than one way. Except for in wine, because everything in wine is, of course, outside of the U.S. So you think of acre, like 1 acre, and in wine, everything is in hectares, which is just like 1.2 acres or something like that. Whatever, I forget whatever it is. So I always think of things in hectares versus acres. So it's the only thing I can like go into a different number system for. Everything else, fuck it. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know why the world just doesn't decide on one and use that. It would make it so much easier for everyone.
Why can't we decide on one thing and just go with it together as one whole country, together as one? I don't understand. Why we all gotta be different? Why do we all gotta be stupid?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm moving to Canada. My job has offices in Canada, so I could have.
Oh yeah. We've got them here.
So I can learn. This is the whole purpose. So I can just learn different ways to measure things. Oh goodness!
Uproot your whole life to learn metric.
I mean, I pretty much did that when I bought my car because I wanted to learn to drive a stick shift. Because when I was working in the wine business, I was traveling a lot, and international travel. When you travel in Europe, they don't have a lot of automatics. So
right.
And it's way more expensive, like twice the price if you get an automatic versus a manual transmission.
Wow.
So I said, you know what, fuck it. One time when I went to Germany, they were like, no, we don't have an automatic, even though you ordered one and reserved one. Here, we're going to give you this Mercedes-Benz hot car, like this really nice car, but it's a manual. So I'm like, okay.
Wow. I mean, it's definitely good to know how to do it. Like, my first car I owned was a manual. When my mom and my stepdad, they got me a car when I was, like, 17. And I wanted a manual. They're like, are you sure you want a manual? I was like, I want a manual. My mom didn't know how to drive manual. She's like, how am I going to move your car if we need to, like, switch cars in the driveway? And I was like, nope, I want a manual. So I got it, and I learned, which was great. And then after a while, I was just like, my calf hurts. I don't want to drive manual anymore.
No, 100%. Sometimes I'm driving, I'm like, why the fuck did I get this?
And this could be so much easier.
Yes, I could just do one thing. Push my foot down on the drive and do nothing else. Nope, I've got to clutch in the clutch, go into the gear, do it again, over and over again. Oh my God.
Like, are you driving on a track? Are you doing nice windy mountain roads? No. You're just in traffic on the highway.
So you're just going to sit there with my clutch in and just go over and over again. It sucks. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yep. Feel that. But at least now we can go to Europe together, Pam, and drive a manual transmission together because it'll be a lot cheaper.
That's true.
Yeah. When we go vineyard
I didn't even know it was that much more expensive. I remember when I got my car, and this was like many, many years ago, and I think a manual transmission was $1,000 less than the automatic transmission.
Yeah. In the States too, my car wasn't. I mean, there's very few options to purchase manuals in the States.
That's true.
Because there are none. Like, I couldn't even, like, I just wanted to learn. And I couldn't even, like, go to, like, a car rental place to go just rent one for, like, a weekend. Because that's what I wanted to do. I couldn't do that because there's none available. So I was like, fuck it. I'll just go spend $20,000 and just buy a new one. It's fine. So there are very few options. So in reality, my car's not cheaper than an automatic. You know, because it has to be a sports car in order to be that. Yeah. And I had to have seat warmers. So there's that. But when you travel, though, there are so many more options to rent a car for a manual versus automatic. So you end up, it's like the cost ratio is so much cheaper for a manual transmission because they have so much more available versus the, You always end up getting like a Mercedes-Benz anyways because they're so common over there, at least in like Germany and France or whatever. Yeah. So not that you'd like get that here, but you know, like yeah, we're in Germany and getting a cute little Mercedes that's like ridiculous hot car. Yeah. Yeah, so I highly recommend at least learning if you want to travel to Europe, but it's not necessary, but it's fine.
I mean, you should just learn in general.
Yes, you should just learn in general. Stop being in your own little bubble. Do things differently. Try things new.
Learn about wine. Learn how to drive stick.
Yes.
Learn different measurements.
Play different video games outside of the ones you're used to. Abso-freaking-lutely. I'm all for it.
Yep.
So, yes, and drink different wines. Like this. This is your first time having a white Burgundy. What do you think?
It's delicious. I love it.
Yeah? That's good because I got you 2 bottles. I mean, not 2 of the same. We have a different one, but it's fine. Yeah. The other one I got you is a poulet fuissé, which is how you say it. You know, you're like, I don't know how to say it.
I have no idea how to say that. I can say sen, but I can't say that.
Yeah, I cannot say sen. Poulet fuissé, which is out of the Macon, which is just south of Burgundy proper. So there's the Côte de Beaune, Côte de Nuit. Yeah, Côte de Beaune, Côte de Nuit, and then the Macon right below it, which is a lot of like Chardonnay comes from. And that's where Poulet fuissé comes from. And Poulet fuissé is actually, there's this like little rock. It's called the Rock of Vergisson. Which is where Poulet fuissé is. It's a beautiful little area, and you can have like other little areas within the Vergisson rock. It's I say a rock, it's like a hill. There's no mountains in France. And there's lots of, you know, fun soils and such. Not as fun as the Kimmeridgian soil, let's be real. But it's very bright and salacious, like our Chablis here. Maybe a little bit more body to it than our Chablis. Just because the soils are a bit different, but it's a beautiful wine, and I'm excited for you to try it. I do love Chablis.
It is good. I'm gonna have to stock up on wine for you when you come here. I got my favorite white. Make sure so you can try that.
The Cave Springs one?
Yeah, the Riesling Dolomite specifically. The Dolomite is very difficult to find in like actual stores. So I ordered it directly from the vineyard.
Oh, I'm excited because I've never had the Dolomite one. I maybe saw it once when I was working in wine at the shop. Maybe once, I think, but it was always just the regular Riesling, never the Dolomite one. So
it's very minerally.
Yes, I can love mineral bright whites. Yes. People always think like, oh, if it's Chardonnay, I don't like oaky or I don't like buttery or whatever it is. Like, this is Chardonnay and this is none of those things. So
yeah,
come on.
I feel like because there was a point where all the Chardonnay was just very oaky and I was like, I don't like this. And I just never drank Chardonnay again.
It was like a huge fad too for a couple of years there. Because like people, like, you know, you have a couple California Chardonnays that have that big oak and big mallow, the butteriness to it. And you're just like, fuck, no, like this makes me sleepy. And yeah, but Chardonnay is like chicken. You can cook it 1,000 different ways. So it's not like you have to be married to this one kind. You just have to figure out where that sort of comes from. Not that like Chablis. I mean, if you ever find a Chablis that is buttery, frickin' call me up because I want to know who the fuck is doing that. Like, because that'd be crazy talk right there. So yeah, if you like, you know, if it says Chablis, typically it'll be bright and minerally, so you can just roll with that and just trust it. Might be a little oaky, maybe a touchy oak, depend on the producer, but no butter. Shouldn't. Again, call me. Okay. But oh my gosh, Pam. Let's continue to drink, but please plug. You plug me and say like you plug yourself.
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube or on Twitch. My channel name is Cannot Be Tamed. I talk about retro video games and new video games, Metroidvanias. I stream indie games and adventure games. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yes. I love it when you do the adventure games, like you just played Secret of Monkey Island. I love that game so much.
I know. I was so happy to play that because I had just played a game that I was unfamiliar with, and it took quite a while. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes: The Case of the Rose Tattoo, which is the longest name ever. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I want something quick. I want something that I know. So I played Monkey Island, and that's just my favorite adventure game. It's just perfect. The puzzles are all great. The writing is funny. There's no way to get stuck or die. It's just such a good adventure game.
So good. If there's a maze, there's like a logic, like the maze has a map.
Instructions.
Yes, yeah. It has a map to tell you which way to go. So is the first Monkey Island your favorite one? I know you've played the first 3. Is the first one your favorite?
Yeah, the first one's my favorite. Yeah. I would say 1, 3, 2.
Ooh, 3 sneaking in there on the second spot. Oh, I love it.
I don't love it when you have multiple islands and you're like doing a thing and you're like, oh, I have to go back to this other island to do this thing. It's like, oh, I forgot to pick up this thing over on this other island. So that kind of is what bothered me about the second one. But I really liked 3 when I played it. It was very funny again, and it had good puzzles. So
yeah, 3 is probably my favorite just because I have a lot of nostalgia goggles for it. It was the first one I ever played. I mean, back in the day. I remember having, I don't know where it went, but I had the big box version as a kid. And Lord, wow. I know, I suck. I don't know what happened to it. It's just childhood.
I wish I had kept all of my games from when I was a kid, but I never actually had just the Monkey Island, which is worth a lot of money now. I always I got it in a 5-pack, like a Lucasfilm 5-pack with like Zach McCracken and Loom, and so I have that again. I bought it, fairly recently, but yeah, I never had the actual Monkey Island big box, which is just, I would really love to have it, but it's so expensive. And I won't even play the discs. I will just literally put the box on my shelf. Yeah. Because it's on Steam. Like, why would I don't, my computer doesn't even have a disk drive, so I'm like, yeah, mine doesn't either. I have to go buy one, an external one, and hook it up to the USB or something. Just like, but it looks so pretty. I love the way PC big boxes look on the shelves. They're so nice. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, there's a few that I would really like, but all of the ones I still have on my list are just stupid expensive, and just, being rational. It's like, you can't spend $200 on this thing that, you'll read through the manual once, and that's all. Like, I would really love Fallout 1 and 2. Yeah. Secret of Monkey Island, the first Gabriel Knight game. Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of Orpheus Curse. Oh, fun! I've never played that. I love Are You Afraid of the Dark? Oh my god, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure it's actually abandonware, so you can just go and find it on a site and play it there. But it's a really interesting one. It's an FMV game, but it's mostly still images as opposed to actual, video of real actors. But it was pretty good. I really liked it. It's, it's for kids, obviously, so it's just like a little spooky, but good puzzles. Yeah, but that's Are You Afraid of the Dark? It was like, nostalgia. Oh, exactly. Love it. Oh, well, now I'm gonna go hunting for it. I'm going to Too Many Games in a couple weeks. So. Oh yeah, Too Many Games is soon. Yeah, that's exciting. That's a good one because it is so game focused. Like a lot of other things, like MagFest was so much fun, but it was like 99% about hanging out with people and like 1% about the actual convention. Yeah, because the actual convention is like, there's a few games, but it's mostly like art and crafty stuff and yep
Yeah. Whereas I feel like too many games is actual selling of games, and you can actually like maybe find something you can't find. Not that prices are going to be any cheaper, because they're not anymore. That's not the world we live in. That's fine.
Yeah,
but
there's no cheap prices.
There's no cheap prices, but at least you may be able to find it and have it in your hand. Be like, okay, do I want this? Like, see it physically in your hand versus buying it online or some auction or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited. My sister works at a video game store. They're going to be a vendor there, so I'm trying to get a vendor pass and just like, I'll help you move things.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we'll see. But yes,
that'll be fun.
Thank you, Pam, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.